Good morning, Dr. Ritter's office. Can I help you?
Hi. Yes, I'd like to make an appointment to come in for a checkup, please.
OK. May I have your name, please?
Yes, it's Jones, Peter Jones.
And you want a medical examination?
That's right.
By the way, my name's Rebecca. I'm Dr. Ritter's secretary. Have you seen Dr. Ritter before, Mr. Jones?
Actually, no, Rebecca. We've only just moved to Los Angeles 2 days ago.
Great. Welcome to LA, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
When would you like to come in?
Any time this week would be fine. I don't have to go into office until next Monday.
OK, let me see. But first, to see how long you'll need, could you tell me why you need the medical?
My insurance company needs it, and my company's, we're in real estate. Medical insurance also wants me to have one. Kind of killing two birds with one stone.
Sure is. Insurance companies want a fairly complete examination, so that means you'll have to come in the morning, and don't eat or drink anything after midnight the night before.
No problem.
Let me see. Would 9 a.m. Thursday be convenient?
9 a.m. Thursday. No problem. Oh, I forgot. We have a meeting with my children's new headmaster that morning. That's at 11.
What school is that?
Beverly Hills High School.
Oh, that's no problem. The whole examination will take about an hour, maybe a bit more, and the school is only 2 blocks from here, a 3-minute walk, so you'll have plenty of time.
That's good. So 9 a.m. Thursday.
You got it. Now, to save time when you get here, I'll ask you a few questions.
Fire away.
First, what is your personal medical insurance company, Mr. Jones?
Blue Cross.
Blue Cross. And how old are you?
46 today.
Happy birthday! Having a big party?
Not really. We don't know anybody here yet, except for 2 neighbours. I think my family planned to take me out to dinner.
A secret surprise, hey? OK, back to Blue Cross. I'm just checking what they need. Let's see. Blood pressure, standard blood and urine tests, cholesterol levels, ECG, checking for diabetes, heart disease, the usual things. Do you have a medical condition at the moment, Mr. Jones?
None at all. Touch wood. Fit as a fiddle.
That's great. I'm sure you'll stay that way. And do you know the name of your company's health plan?
Yes, I've got it here somewhere. Here it is. The Kaiser Health Insurance Company.
Kaiser, yes. They need the same information as Blue Cross, so, as you said, killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
That's right.
And can I have your telephone number, Mr. Jones?
Sure. My cell phone is 13805 56721.
13805 56721.
Right. And my home number is area code 805 523 0296.
805 523 0296. And do you have email?
Yes, the address is pjones12@hotspot.com.
pjones12@hotspot.com.
That's it.
Well, that's all I need for now. See you Thursday, Mr. Jones.
Sure thing, Rebecca. See you then. Bye.
Bye.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Morning Sun Travel. I'm Rick Smith, and I manage our group tours to Australia, New Zealand, and the South Sea Islands. It's good to see so many of you here. As you know, I'm going to introduce our latest product, the 21-day Grand Australian Tour. First of all, why did we develop this new tour? Well, our 2-week Aussie tours have proved really popular over the past few years. So after doing some market research, we found that there's a demand for a longer tour. In fact, looking around, I see some faces I recognise. You two went on our Australian tour last year, right? Great. Good to see you back again. If you think I'm exaggerating about Australia, you can interrupt me. Another thing. It's a long way from England to Australia, and many of our clients think it's a pity to go all that way for just a couple of weeks. So, our first 3-week tour will head off in early November, about 3 months from now. Now, if we dim the light a bit, I'll show you some slides of what we'll do and see down under. Our first stop will be Sydney. It's one of my favourite cities, and we'll arrive mid-morning and check into one of my favourite hotels, the 5 Seasons Hotel, Sydney. America's most popular travel magazine selected it as the best hotel in Australia. Believe me, it deserves every one of its 5 stars. It has fantastic views of Sydney Harbour, the famous Opera House and Sydney Harbour Bridge. And for those of you who were born to shop, it's just a short walk away from Sydney's major shopping and business districts. Great restaurants and bars, and for those of us who like to keep fit, there's a state-of-the-art spa and fitness centre with sauna and heated outdoor pool. We'll have lunch in the hotel, and then off we'll go to explore. No time for a rest. To get over jet lag, it's best to get out and do something energetic. Our first afternoon, we'll stroll around the harbour and visit the Sydney Opera House. Then we'll have a relaxed evening dining at Luigi's Place, one of the city's best Italian restaurants. Day 2. Lots of fresh air. We'll have a day trip to the Blue Mountains. Just look at these slides. Wonderful views, complete with a walk through temperate rainforests. And these pictures are Featherdale Wildlife Park, the best wildlife park in Sydney, where you can feed kangaroos, have your photo taken with koala bears, and see over 2,000 different other types of Australian animals, including crocodiles, Tasmanian devils, wombats. Look at this picture of a wombat. Looks like a bear with short legs. And penguins, dingoes and snakes. Lots of snakes. Some of Australia's snakes are the most poisonous in the world. And you can also learn about Aboriginal culture. And, this is fun, try throwing a boomerang. And look at these slides. Australia's Grand Canyon, the Megalong and Jamison Valleys. Incredible! On the way back, we'll get in our bus and stop at the Sydney 2000 Olympic site, where you can see Stadium Australia, the Superdome, the Aquatic Centre, the Olympic Village, and lots more. So, day 2, great day. But that's not all. After that, we'll take a cruise down the Parramatta River, under the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and into Sydney Harbour. Any questions so far? Okay, let's see what we'll be doing on day 3. Anyone flown in a seaplane? Just a few of you. Well, a visit to Sydney would not be complete without viewing the world-famous Bondi Beach from 500 feet in the air, and this is a picture of Bondi Beach. We take off from Rose Bay, which is not far from our hotel. This should be a slide of Rose Bay. Yes, it is. You can see the seaplane taking off. Then we fly down the coast to Bondi Beach. Look at that surf. Returning back up the coast, we fly over Manly and Longreef before returning to the harbour, climbing to a height of 1,000 feet for a vista of Sydney Harbour, which will take your breath away. Look at this slide. And this one. Wow! And then back to Rose Bay. Then it'll be time for lunch in Chinatown. That's a great thing about Australia. It's a country of immigrants. So in the cities, you can get just about any food you like. Greek, Chinese, Mexican, you name it. And perhaps you'd like to try kangaroo meat. Very low fat. And after a big lunch, we'll go to walk it off in Luna Park. I can't begin to tell you how much there is to see and do here. We'll just run through a few slides. Picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say, to give you an idea. Hey, I see the coffee's here. It's a bit early, not to worry. Let's all grab a cup now, and then we'll move on to Melbourne, then the Great Barrier Reef, and all the other great places on the itinerary.
Hi, Anne. How's it going?
I'm going mad. I haven't even started preparing my talk for tomorrow's political science class.
Me neither.
I've been so busy looking after my mum.
She's still ill.
Yeah. The doctor says I should get someone to do all her cooking and cleaning for another week or so, but we can't afford to employ someone to help her. The neighbours are all too busy. It's not that I'm too busy with my other classes.
That's really tough. I've got no excuses for not being prepared. Too much time playing computer games.
How many times have I told you?
I know, but at least I've got a topic.
Which is?
Well, it's about an experiment in Los Angeles, I think, that I read about in social studies at high school. It's about how wearing a uniform can change people's personalities. This professor got a lot of his students to agree to take part in an experiment during the summer vacation, but he wouldn't tell them anything about it.
Can you remember the professor's name?
No, but I think he was from the University of California at Los Angeles.
Well, at least you've got the most important thing, a topic. I haven't even got that. So, what happened in this experiment?
Well, the prof got the local police to cooperate. One night, they went to about 20 students and arrested them. Poor guys didn't have a clue what for.
And they didn't know it was the experiment they had volunteered for.
They had no idea. And it had been weeks since they volunteered for the experiment. Anyway, the cops took them to a school building that had been made to look like the inside of a prison or a police station. Can't remember.
It's not important. And what happened then? Did they get charged or something?
Don't know. They must have been told something, but that's not the main thing.
Which was?
Well, what they didn't know was that about 8 other students were waiting at the police station, or whatever it was, dressed up as prison guards.
Hey, now I think I read about that ages ago. The experiment took place in the early 70s, and the students dressed as prison guards were told to act like prison guards.
I've just thought of something. Did the arrested students know the other students?
I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so. No, different schools, because otherwise the ones who thought they'd been arrested might have realised it was the experiment they had signed up for.
Guess you're right. But then what happened? Remember?
Yeah, the guards really got into it and started treating the other guys like they see on the movies, making them do press-ups, cutting their hair really short, not letting them sleep. A real power trip. The poor guys were terrified.
Yeah. The experiment was supposed to last for a week, but things got out of control, remember? The guys who thought they were prisoners, not guards, started having nervous breakdowns.
Hey, look at the time. I gotta go. At least you've got something to talk about. How role-playing can get real, especially when we put uniforms on.
Yeah, and the students were normal, nice guys.
Who didn't waste time with computer games.
Good evening, and welcome to the second class of our Sales and Marketing course. Tonight, and in the next few weeks, I'll be talking about advertising. To be specific, about different types of advertising, different types of message, all of which, of course, are supposed to make your company, or your organization, the government perhaps, more successful. Now, please note that I'm not, at this stage, going to talk about advertising media. There are various choices here: radio, newspapers, television, billboards, magazines, and, of course, the Internet. It's almost impossible to go into Google or Yahoo or whatever and not find adverts on almost every page. But we'll talk about the various choices of media later. First, I will stress one thing. Advertising can be expensive. Whether you are a small business, an NGO, or a multinational corporation. So it's very important that what you spend on advertising is money well spent, money that achieves your objectives, whatever they might be. The ads must be cost-effective. It is therefore essential to use the right type of advertising with the right message that make it effective. There are several types of advertising, aiming to promote one, sometimes more, of the following things: brand name, company image, a product, a service rather than a product, or a group, like a manufacturers association or a cooperative. Can you think of anything else? Right. You might want to make people look after their health better and associate your company with things that can help them do this. But the common aim is that the advertiser wants to change or reinforce people's attitudes and perceptions, and in most cases, their behavior. Maybe their buying habits. Which type you choose depends on your objectives. All clear so far? Good. Okay, let's look at a very common type, advertising designed to promote a brand name. If you go out to buy many types of product, toothpaste, detergent, cheese, how many of you think of the name of the company that made it? Right, you don't usually think of Procter & Gamble when you buy the company's Tide laundry detergent, or Cascade dishwashing powder, or the Kraft Company when you buy Philadelphia cream cheese. That's right. Philadelphia cream cheese is a registered brand name. In fact, the name of the company, Kraft, is hardly noticeable on the package. The point is that these companies have successfully promoted the name of various products, and consumers buy these products primarily because they recognize the brand name and may not even know the name of the company that makes it. So, advertising to promote a brand name is designed to create and keep strong image in the customer's mind of the product, not the company. For example, would you buy Shell? You know, the big oil company. Would you buy Shell beer? It's a famous company, but probably not. Imagine. But what if Shell had bought a brewery and marketed a beer they called Granddad's Old Ale? You can bet that the word Shell Oil Company would be in the smallest print possible and would never be mentioned in Granddad's Old Ale advertising. But when you buy a can of Shell oil or some gasoline, the word Shell is big and everywhere. So, there's nothing better than a good brand name. Now, let's look at another type of advertising. Advertising that is designed to promote a company image. Imagine you've started a new company. You might want to start by getting the company name known first, before you worry about advertising your products and services. One company that did this was in San Francisco, the San Fran Video Store. The managers decided to promote the company name rather than promote the videos they rented out. They put small ads in local newspapers that simply said, San Fran Video Store, a great selection of movies. And they also had people handing out little cards with the same message on them, plus a list of the store locations. So they didn't spend a fortune on advertising. They put most of their money into making sure they had a great selection of movies. And it worked. They started with 4 stores in 1995, and now they have, at last count, 27. Now, can you think of examples of companies advertising both a product and the company name in the same advert? Come on, you must be able to think of one. What? That's right, a good example. Makers of luxury things like perfume and fashion. For example, when Chanel brings out a new perfume, the advertising message is always something like, Nightlight by Chanel. This almost immediately gives the new perfume a good reputation, because it's by Chanel, and also reinforces perception of the company name. So, the different types of advertising might not be mutually exclusive. The important thing is that the objectives must be clear, mutually supportive, and not contradictory. Another type of advertising is designed to promote a service rather than a physical product. But our time is up, so we'll leave that till next time. Good night, everybody.
Hi, I'm Detective Smith. I can see you are upset, but I must ask you a few questions about the robbery.
Yes, I understand. I'll try to control myself. It was so sudden.
I understand. Why don't we sit down and get a cup of tea?
Yes, thank you. It's okay. I'm a bit better now.
Good. These things can be very disturbing, but we'll take our time. First, I need a few particulars. Let me see. Today is January 7th. Now, may I have your name?
Yes, Mrs. Mary Susan Jones.
Thank you. Age?
38.
And your home address, Mrs. Jones?
Yes, it's 39 Rose Garden Terrace.
Telephone numbers?
I only have a home number, 4834-6290.
Okay.
I only came out to buy some milk. I never dreamed...
Yes. Now, try to relax. What time did you come into the shop, Mrs. Jones?
It was exactly 11:15. I looked at my watch just before coming into the shop. I was worried I might not get home in time to make my husband's lunch.
And before you entered the shop, can you remember seeing anything unusual?
No, but as soon as I came in, this man walked out very quickly, nearly pushed me over. Then I saw poor Williams, the owner. I'm so glad he's not badly hurt.
No, just a bump on the head. Now, this man you saw, could you say how tall he was?
Well, I only came up to his shoulder, and I'm 5'4", so he must be about, 6 feet.
And you're not wearing high-heeled shoes? So yes, that's about right. But we have to use the metric system now, so that makes him about 180 centimeters. Did you see his face?
Not really. I didn't look up. I was so annoyed. But I do know he was wearing a black hat. I saw it as he was walking out of the door. One of those things cowboys wear.
Did you notice what color hair he had?
I didn't really see it, what with his hat, and me trying to keep my balance.
What about the rest of his clothes?
He had a jacket on. I think it was dark blue. No, gray. Oh dear. I can't really say for sure. It all happened so quickly. Oh, but I do know he was wearing those big basketball shoes, red and white ones, like so many young men wear nowadays.
What about his trousers?
His trousers. Gray? Oh dear. I can't really say. I just know they were dark.
Was he fat, thin, average?
Very thin, skinny.
That's very useful information, Mrs. Jones. With a bit of luck, he's still around, but I expect he's got off the streets by now.
I do hope you catch him. It's terrible.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you all here, and welcome to Big Town University. My name is Robert Black, and I'm the head of Student Services. Today it's my pleasure to introduce you to our university's many resources, especially those that are concerned with student welfare, rather than academic resources and research facilities. So I'll start with my department, Student Services. Our offices are all in the Students' Union building, which I'm sure you have already discovered, because that's where the student bar and cafeteria are. Basically, our job is to help you stay well, mentally and physically. Then you can better enjoy your life here, and even study sometimes. To do this, we offer a variety of services. One is our student counseling service. For many of you, it's the first time you've away from home. This can take a while to adjust to for some people, and some of you will fall in love, and then your girlfriend or boyfriend will run off with your best friend. Some people look at this philosophically and say, who cares, there are plenty of fish in the sea, and then get on with life. But a few will think it's the end of the world and get depressed. Then there's the pressure of your schoolwork, which usually affects not the less clever or the most hard-working students, but those who don't manage their time properly and leave everything to the last minute. So, for these and various other reasons, some people find themselves in a depression, severe clinical depression in the worst cases. Now, it's very common for people suffering from depression to be reluctant to seek professional help. I must stress, if you find yourself in a depression that doesn't get better simply by talking it over with good friends or your parents, please come to see one of our professional counselors. They have a lot of experience in helping people get through depressions. As with all our offices, They're open during normal office hours. That's 9 to 5. But in cases of emergency, one of them is on call 24 hours a day. You can see the Student Services emergency number on the first page of your student handbook. Well, I do hope my talking about depression hasn't made any of you feel depressed. Another one of our services is the Student Housing Office. I won't say much about this because most of you will have already dealt with the office, either to arrange accommodation in a student residence or to help you find somewhere to live off campus. We have a database of off-campus housing that is updated almost daily, so if any of you are still looking, then please drop in. Now, what about fun? As you can read in the handbook, the Students' Union has dozens of clubs. Chess Club, Chinese Club, French Club, Choir, Conservative Club, Liberal Club, the Green Club, which works very closely with the University Maintenance Department, as well as other environmental groups. And for those of you who like mountains, there's a climbing club. Well, it would take me all day to list all of our clubs and societies, and of course all the sports teams. But I do recommend that you join one or two of them. It's a great way for new students to make new friends. Mentioning sports, our brand new fitness center opened last week, and the indoor swimming pool has just been renovated. They are open from 6 a.m. to 11 at night, 7 days a week, except for holidays like Christmas and the New Year. Of course, they are free of charge for students. Just show your student card. I really must recommend that you check out the new fitness center. It's got all the very latest in high-tech strength training machines, free weights room, everything you'd expect for over $25 million. Okay, we've covered counseling, housing, clubs, sports, keeping fit. What else should I mention? Oh, yes. If you're doing all these sports, climbing mountains and things, you might need to go to our sports medicine clinic. It's in the Student Health Center, which is conveniently located between the fitness center and the athletics stadium, not the football stadium. People play games and exercise 7 days a week, so the clinic is open 7 days a week, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The regular medical services in the Student Health Center are open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., although there's always a nurse on duty for emergencies. Treatment is free only if you have registered with the provincial health plan, so make sure you take your health plan card with you if you have to see the doctor. Well, I think I've covered enough for now. I won't talk about the library or the teaching facilities, because you'll soon learn everything you need to learn when classes start on Monday. Thank you, and good luck to you.
Hi, Sue. Wow, this is great. The Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. I'm really looking forward to doing this project on the Wright brothers.
Me too. My dad was an Air Force pilot, always talking about the Wright brothers. If they hadn't invented the airplane, my dad might not have had a job.
Okay, let's look at the questionnaire.
Where shall we start?
The stuff on the Wright brothers starts over there. Okay, first questions.
First names, Wilbur and Orville. Everyone knows that. Then when and where they were born. Oh, and died.
Let's see. Wilbur, the third son, was born on a farm in Indiana on April the 16th, 1867, and died of typhus in 1912. Pretty young, eh? Oh, and in 1965, he was selected for the Hall of Fame for Great Americans. Make a note of that.
Okay. And what about Orville?
Here we are, born in Dayton, Ohio in 1871, died 1948. Doesn't say why or where. We'll find out later. What's next?
What got them interested in flying?
It says here that their dad used to buy them lots of toys, and one was like a helicopter. And it seems that this toy helicopter first got them interested in the idea. Also, they read about this German guy who made himself a pair of large wings and managed to glide. Then they started to read everything they could get their hands on about flying and began building a plane in 1900. Next?
Their first jobs?
They started a printing shop and also a bicycle shop. I guess they both needed some knowledge of mechanics. It helps if you want to make the world's first airplane.
I suppose so. Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay, and now the big question. When did they first fly their airplane?
Well, they made a glider and flew it in 1902. But the one that made them famous was, I'll read it to you, the first ever heavier-than-air manned-powered flight in 1903.
Got the exact date there?
No, just the year. We can easily find it later. Hey, but listen to this. Government bureaucrats thought they were crazy, and some engineers thought that if two bicycle mechanics could build a successful airplane, they could do it too.
Hey, you write down the answers now. Let me have a read. Here's the day they first tried to fly it. Monday, December the 14th, 1903. They tossed a coin and decided that Wilbur would take the first turn as pilot. And the plane weighed 600 pounds. He started off, but turned the rudder too sharply, and the left wing hit the hillside. So they repaired it, and Orville tried again on Thursday, December the 17th, 1903.
So, that was the big day.
Yeah. The flight wasn't much, 12 seconds, 120 feet. I'll read what it says. But it was the first controlled, sustained flight in a heavier-than-air craft, one of the great moments of the century. And on their third flight that day, Wilbur flew 852 feet in 59 seconds.
Okay, time for a coffee.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to say how happy I am to have this opportunity to address this committee and hopefully contribute to our country's policy in respect to the importation and use of wood and wood products. I will start with a brief introduction to the current situation of the world's forests, and then give you an overview of the various services that forests provide. By services, I mean benefits to people, as well as wildlife. Until recent years, these services have been greatly undervalued. The rate of deforestation worldwide is astounding. The Rainforest Action Network estimated in 1999 that 2.4 acres, that's 1 hectare, about the size of 2 football fields, was being lost not every day or every hour, but every second. An area larger than New York City every day. Or 31 million hectares a year, an area larger than Poland. Despite the efforts of environmental groups and concerned people all over the world, the rate of deforestation has increased in recent years. The results of global deforestation are far-reaching. It means the loss of habitat for numerous species of plants and animals. It is a major factor in the warnings from scientists worldwide that, if mankind does not change how we treat our planet, 50% of species could be extinct by the middle of this century. I am sure you all know what this loss of biodiversity would mean for us humans. The loss of genetic resources would seriously threaten our food security. For example, to maintain resistance to pests and diseases, our major cereal crops, rice, corn, and wheat, need to have genes introduced from wild relatives every few years. And who knows what new medicines we would be losing, especially with the destruction of tropical forests, which, like coral reefs and wetlands, are especially rich in biodiversity. And then there's global warming, a problem that threatens the very existence of civilization, but one which, with the exception of some northern European countries, is not treated with the urgency it deserves. Forests are important carbon sinks, taking in atmospheric carbon dioxide and storing it in their wood and the soil. Moreover, they are mostly destroyed by logging and fire. Burning releases carbon dioxide, and decaying vegetation releases methane into the atmosphere. These are both major greenhouse gases. It is estimated that 1/3 of the increasing levels of carbon dioxide and methane in the atmosphere come from deforestation. In addition, healthy forests and the soil under them that they protect store water when it rains and slowly release it during dry seasons. Take away the trees and you have floods in the rainy season and drought in the dry season. We have seen more and more of this in recent years in Haiti, Indonesia, China. Look at this year's devastating floods in Bangladesh due to rapid deforestation in the Himalayas. and many other countries. I have mentioned protecting the soil. Most of the landslides that killed hundreds of people and destroyed thousands of houses during the hurricane that hit Haiti this year would probably not have happened if virtually all of Haiti's forests had not been cut down for fuel. Another important ecological function of forests is their role in the hydrological cycle. Rain falls. Some of the water moves through the soil to feed streams and rivers. The rest evaporates into the air, providing moisture for clouds and rain hundreds of kilometers downwind. Break this cycle and the people downwind have less rain for agriculture and other uses, and the people downstream face a greater risk of floods. This effect is now seen very clearly in the Amazon, Central Africa, and elsewhere. And we must not forget coral. Coral reefs are essential habitat for countless thousands of fish and other marine species. Over 50% of these important parts, important economically, not just beautiful things to look at, of the marine ecosystem are now damaged. The main reasons are warmer seawater, chemical pollution, and dynamite fishing, but eroded soil from deforested land that runs into the sea is another. Corals need clean water to survive. Without this, they die. So does the marine life that depends on them, and the fishermen end up with no fish and no income. And we must not forget the many millions of people who depend on healthy forests for their living. Many of these people, tribes in the Amazon for example, have lived in harmony with the forests for thousands of years. When their jungle home is destroyed, they all too often end up as marginal people in the slums of big cities. And for us rich people, the forest environment provides us with wonderful opportunities for ecotourism, hiking, camping, bird watching, and other outdoor activities. Before we stop for coffee, I would say just one more thing. Many studies by environmental economists show that the free ecological services provided by a tree in an intact forest, reliable water supply, climate moderation, etc., are worth 20 to several hundred times as much as the wood when it is cut down for timber.
Hi, John. How's it going?
Pretty good. What about you?
Terrific. So what do you think of our new school?
A1, man. Much better than the old one. In fact, I'm going to write an article for the London Times about it.
Really?
Yeah. Have you got half an hour? Maybe you should give me some ideas.
If you buy me a coffee.
No problem. How do you think I should start? Introduce the headmaster?
Why don't you compare it with the old one? You know, the buildings, laboratories, language lab, computer equipment, fitness center, pool, stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I mean, the old one was pretty bad, and the new headmaster seems like a great guy. Actually, all the teachers I've met seem pretty decent.
Same here. The French teacher is really cool, and he's actually French, not like Smith at the old place. He sounded less French than even you do.
Hey, my accent is perfect.
Dream on. But why don't you start with what the headmaster told us school this morning, you know, his ideas on education and things.
Yeah, I liked that. None of that stuff about how we must study hard for our futures in the honor of the school. There's no free lunch, that type of thing. He sounds pretty progressive. What did he say? If we teachers succeed in stimulating your minds, stimulating you to ask questions and think critically, then you will discover the joy of learning, enjoy your studies, and therefore work hard.
Hey, what a memory. Those are his exact words. Do you remember what he said next?
Something about it's good to keep fit.
Yeah. Do you remember him mentioning those experiments showing that after half an hour of exercise, our brains are much more creative for hours?
And puts you in a better mood. Did you see the fitness center?
I went early this morning for a workout. Fantastic. Olympic-sized pool, not like that tiny 25-meter thing we had before. And the gym has absolutely everything. I counted 10 exercise bikes, some rowing machines, really good ones. Are you gonna go?
I've been every other day for 2 weeks. Feel great. Hey, maybe I should interview some of the teachers and students for my article.
Of course you should. Wow, just thought of it. I'm doing a video project. Maybe I could film the interviews.
Makes sense. And I could take a few photos. Maybe the newspaper would use one or two of them. The main hall is awesome. Really light, lots of windows, and a huge stage, big enough for a 60 or 70-person orchestra.
Did you see Mr. Clark, the old music teacher? I think he's the only teacher here from the old school.
He is, and he was the only decent teacher. I met him in the hall. He's really happy, planning to double the size of the school orchestra. It's great.
Okay, let's plan what we're going to do.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the London Park Society. It's a lovely day, so in half an hour or so we'll go outside and start our tour of some of London's famous royal parks. But for the next half an hour or so, while we enjoy our coffee and biscuits, I'll tell you something about some of these wonderful parks, a brief history, and some of their special attractions. I also have a few slides to show you. First, what do we mean by royal park? In short, they once belonged to or were established by order of a king or queen of England, or at least a member of the royal family. And it's a good job they did. They provide quiet and natural scenery, places that we might not be able to enjoy today if our former rulers had just put buildings everywhere. Let's start with the most famous, Hyde Park. This park offers some of London's finest scenery and covers 630 acres and a perimeter of 4 miles. I know we have friends from France here, so I'd better give it in metric. That's about 260 hectares and 6.5 kilometres. Hyde Park dates back to 1536, when King Henry VIII got the land from the monks of Westminster Abbey. Much of the later design, its layout, was done by the architect Decimus Burton in the 1820s, who took full advantage of the area's high and low land. It was the original site of the Crystal Palace, built for the Great Exhibition of 1851, the original ancestor of today's World Expos, like the one that will be held in Shanghai in 2010, I think. So it's been popular for a long time. And not only the people who live and work near the park like it. Many famous rock bands like Pink Floyd and the Rolling Stones have put on big rock concerts here. I still remember the Rolling Stones concert there in, I forget the exact year. It was around 1968 when I was a university student. I mentioned the architect Decimus Burton. He designed the very impressive grand entrance to the park. The whole front is about 107 feet long. Look at the 4 magnificent pillars that support the central entrance, and that carving on the wall. Here's a close-up of a naval and military procession, and the gates made of iron and bronze, with a beautiful Greek-style flower design. One of the most popular sites in the park is Speaker's Corner, in the northeast corner, where you can hear British people exercise their right to free speech. There may be a dozen or more at any one time, each standing on a soapbox and spouting, usually, controversial views on any topic you can think of: religion, politics, fox hunting, trade unions, Europe, tourists, etc. Lots of arguing. It's great fun. And south of the Serpentine Lake is the memorial to Diana, Princess of Wales. It's an oval stone fountain that opened on July the 6th, 2004. Another memorial, in the southeast corner of the park, is the Albert Memorial, Queen Victoria's monument to her husband of that name. I see that time is getting short, so I'll be a bit briefer with the other parks that we'll see today and tomorrow. Regent's Park. It has a fantastic landscape and is known as the jewel in the crown. Regent's Park covers 487 acres, that's 197 hectares, including Primrose Hill, and has the largest outdoor sports area in London. Rugby, basketball, soccer, netball, cricket, it's all here. St James's Park, with its royal, political and literary associations, is at the very heart of London. It's overlooked by not one but 3 royal palaces. The most ancient palace is Westminster, now known as the Houses of Parliament. Then there's St. James's Palace, which used to be the King or Queen's residence, despite the fact that the monarch has lived in the 3rd palace, Buckingham Palace, since 1837. There's so much to see in or by St. James's Park. Bands give concerts twice a day in the park at weekends during the summer. And tomorrow is Saturday, so we're in luck. Then there's the changing of the guards. The Queen's Lifeguard changes daily at Whitehall, just nearby, Monday to Saturday at 11 a.m., an hour earlier on Sundays, and at Buckingham Palace every day at 11:30 in April, May and June, and on alternate days in July and March, if the weather is okay. Finally, we'll visit Greenwich Park, which is the oldest enclosed royal park. It's situated on a hilltop, with impressive views over the River Thames to the Docklands and the City of London. It contains several historic buildings, including the Old Royal Observatory, the Royal Naval College, the National Maritime Museum and the Queen's House. Well, it's time to go. A 10-minute walk and we'll be at Hyde Park.
Hi guys, I'm Bob. Have you got a few minutes?
Sure, but what's up?
Nothing much, but I've got to do a survey for my sociology class. It'd be great if you could help me out. You're students here, aren't you? Seen you around campus.
Yeah, economics majors. I'm Jed.
I'm Sue.
And I'm Anne.
Hi. Economics. I haven't made my mind up yet. It's a toss-up between sociology and environmental studies. Resource management, sustainable development, that sort of thing.
Sure, but I have a class in 10 minutes. How long will it take?
Well, if I start with you, I should be able to get the info I need in 5 minutes or so.
Okay. What do you want to know? Names and stuff.
Anonymous is okay. I just need your major, economics, and what year you are.
We're all sophomores. The fun year.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, the first thing I want to know... By the way, these are open-ended questions. You can say as much or as little as you want.
Okay, fire away.
Right. What do you think is the single most important problem facing the world today?
I reckon it's global warming, not terrorism. I've been taking this environmental economics class, and it's really...
Come on, Sue. I've told you. This climate change stuff is all a big scare cooked up by environmental groups who care more about pandas than people. So subjective.
You're like a tape recorder. Why don't you learn what you're talking about?
Okay, guys, argue about it later. I just want to ask Sue a couple more questions so she can get to her class. What makes you think this, Sue?
Well, if you read about, just check on the internet. There's tons of information. But just look at the effects of rising temperatures on agriculture. For every degree rise in temperature above 30 degrees, there's something like a 10% drop in crop yields.
So that's your main reason for...
It's one of them. Sea levels could rise a meter or more by the end of the century. Think what that will mean for the billions of people who live in low-lying areas. And thousands of species could go extinct because they couldn't adapt quickly enough.
I told you, she cares more about pandas than people.
Jed, she mentioned all those billions of people in low places, and don't forget all the farmland that will be ruined by saltwater intrusion, replacing fresh underground water.
I've got to go. Why don't you see what Bob has to say? All he worries about is stock market trends. But we love you, Jed. Must go. See you.
Thanks. See you. So what's your major worry, Jed?
Sue kind of said it. It's a global economic slowdown, so people won't have jobs.
And what jobs will they have if food production drops like it could?
Maybe we should do this another time. Bye, guys.
Good evening, fellow members of the New York Memory Club. Tonight I'm going to talk about those two famous English universities, Oxford and Cambridge. Let's see who wins tonight's big memory prize, which is a barrel of real English beer. Okay, here I go. Oxford is the oldest English-speaking university in the world. There is no clear date of when it started, but records show that there was some teaching at Oxford in 1096 AD. And it developed rapidly from 1167, when King Henry II banned English students from attending the University of Paris. In 1188, a historian gave a public lecture to the top Oxford teachers, and in 1190, the first known overseas student arrived. This started the university's tradition of international exchanges. In 1231, the masters, meaning the teachers, were recognized as a universitas, which is Latin for something like a corporation. In the 13th century, conflict between town and gown, meaning ordinary townspeople and students, the students wore gowns, accelerated the establishment of halls of residence like dormitories. This led to the Oxford colleges, of which University, Balliol and Merton colleges, established between 1249 and 1264, are the oldest. Less than a century later, Oxford was the most famous centre of learning in the world. It soon became a centre for religious and political disputes. John Wycliffe, a 14th century master of Balliol College, campaigned for a Bible in common English. The pro-Latin leaders of the Catholic Church in Rome were very angry over this, and even more angry when, in 1530, King Henry VIII forced Oxford University to accept his divorce from Catherine of Aragon. In the late 17th century, the Oxford philosopher John Locke, suspected of treason, was forced to leave England. The 18th century was an age of scientific discovery and religious revival. For example, a geometry professor at Oxford, Edmund Halley, successfully predicted the return of the comet that was named after him. I don't have enough time to tell you much more about Oxford University, but I must tell you that from 1878, academic halls were established for women. Since 1974, only one of Oxford's 39 colleges has not accepted both men and women. St Hilda's College remains the only women's college. Now for a few numbers. The University of Oxford has over 17,000 students. A quarter of these students are from outside the UK, 5% from Asia, 8% from North America, 10% from other European countries, and a few from elsewhere. Oxford University currently has students from more than 130 countries. Over 5,600 students are engaged in postgraduate work. Of these, around 3,000 are working in the arts and humanities. Going back to the colleges, of which there are 39, there are also 7 permanent private halls, which were founded by different Christian denominations, and which still retain their religious character. 30 colleges and all 7 halls admit students for both undergraduate and graduate degrees. 7 other colleges are for graduates only. 1, All Souls, has fellows only, and 1, Kellogg College, specialises in part-time graduate and continuing education. Okay, that's enough for Oxford. Now I'll tell you something about Cambridge University. The town itself has its origins in the 1st century BC, when an Iron Age tribe established a settlement on Castle Hill. Later, the Romans took over this site, which was an important strategic point, and was the meeting point of several important Roman roads. Over 1,000 years later, the Normans from France built a castle here. All that remains of this castle nowadays is the small hill that was inside the castle walls. In the 12th century, students attended schools attached to the monasteries and cathedrals, and as universities developed in Italy and France, scholars moved from one centre to another. Some went from Paris to Oxford, and later, in the 13th century, groups arrived in Cambridge. By the middle of the 12th century, there were enough students there for the town to be officially recognised as a seat of learning. In fact, in 1231, King Henry III wrote out orders on how academic life in the town was to be managed. At this time, students had to make their own arrangements for living accommodation. Because it was difficult to find a decent place to live, hostels, like simple small hotels, were set up for them. and from these the college system evolved. The first college was Peterhouse, founded by a bishop, the Bishop of Ely. Just like in Oxford, as the university grew and took over more of the town, there were outbreaks of trouble between town and gown. Well, my time is nearly up, so I'll fast forward to the late 1800s, when two colleges were founded for women, but it was not until the late 1940s that they were awarded degrees. A third women's college was founded in the 1950s, but it was not until the 1970s that other colleges began to accept female students.
Hi, Annie. How are things?
Awful, Bud. Awful.
Why? What's happened?
It's home. Mum's ill and Dad's been laid off, so he's in a really bad mood, and Susan won't be of any help.
Your sister always was lazy. But what's wrong with your mum? She seemed fine last time I saw her.
Everything. I think she's really down because of Dad, and her arthritis is playing up again. It seemed the new medicine was working fine. Now she can still move her fingers, but hardly walk. Her toes hurt, and the doctor says she needs a knee replacement.
Doesn't sound too good. That's expensive surgery. Got medical insurance?
She was covered by my dad's, but that's finished since he lost his job, and money's really tight. A new knee costs about $10,000, so she'll have to put up with it for a while.
God, that's awful. Maybe I should mention it to my uncle.
The one who used to work at the hospital. What could he do?
I don't know, but he knows all the doctors, and maybe there's a way your mum could get the operation done cheaply.
It'll have to be really cheap, because they're having a problem paying the mortgage. And my sister won't help out. She's so selfish.
Well, I'll give a try. But what's this problem with your sister?
Since she won that beauty competition, she thinks she's been acting so high and mighty. Won't even help Mum with the housework.
Won't help your mum?
No, spends all her time in front of the mirror, trying on different lipsticks.
Sounds like my cousin. You know her, I think, Marianne. Works at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, I met her at your party, but she seemed very nice.
She is till you get to know her. Miss Charming. But she's really conceited, especially since she got promoted. Always putting people down.
What about your dad's company? Do you think he might have some work for my dad? Part-time, anything?
He just got this big contract for the new supermarket, so he might be looking for some people. And I know he likes your dad, but all his workers have to be Steelworkers Union members.
I think Dad's kept his membership up. I'll ask him.
Let me know, and I'll check with Dad when he gets back from France.
France?
Yeah, he took Mum there as a 25th wedding anniversary present.
Gosh, it's 5:30. I'm late for work. Gotta fly. See you, Bud.
See you.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to one of the Hong Kong's bank's lectures on money management. I'm John Rogers, and I'm the manager here. Money, they say, makes the world go round. Well, it is true that your world can come to a grinding halt if you have no money. I know you all agree, because that is why you have come here today. Okay, money. What do we want to do with it? Most people want to enjoy the money they earn today, but also put some aside for a rainy day, the kids' education, that big house in the country you've always dreamed of, and, of course, retirement. In other words, they want to invest it. So let's talk for a little while on spending money wisely today, and then I'll talk about the various types of investment you can make. The first question is, how much of your income should you enjoy spending today, and how much should you save for the future? And the answer is different for different people. It depends on things like age, your health, how many children you have, etc. Well, my initial answer is, write out a budget for the necessities: food, rent, mortgage, and loan payments, clothing, health insurance, things like that. When most people do this, they say to themselves, "My goodness, I really only need to spend £1,500 a month. So how come I always spend nearly £2,500? My mother used to tell me, look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves." What to do? Discipline. I suggest you take out the cash you need every week from the bank and keep a record of what you buy with your credit card. And you must strictly limit what you spend every month to, for example, your budget for essentials, plus an amount, say 10%, for a bit of entertainment if you want, and the unexpected, like house repairs, that birthday present you forgot about, things like that. If after 3 weeks you find that you have nearly spent your budget for the month, then stay at home for a week. No fancy restaurants or drinking with the boys. As they say, there's no free lunch. Okay, so what do you do with the money you don't spend? Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. It's a good idea to always have some money in a current deposit at the bank in case of big surprises. Say 1,000 or so. Don't be tempted to use your credit card unless you absolutely have to. And get that safety cushion back in the bank as soon as you can. Right. So, what should you invest in? The list is endless. Real estate, stocks and shares, equity funds. Did I hear someone say gambling? Well, if you have a crystal ball, maybe. The government lottery? Someone once described it as a voluntary tax on fools. But I must admit I spend £1 or £2 on it every week, but no more. It brings a little bit of excitement into my life, even though I know I have a better chance of being struck by lightning than winning. Okay, let's start off with a basic principle. In general, the higher the potential for making a fortune by buying shares of a particular company, the one you have been told will be the next IBM in 3 weeks, the higher the risk. We've all heard about the dot-com bubble of several years ago. Some people made a fortune, but they got out before the market crashed. The majority of investors lost their shirts. Another basic principle, the balanced portfolio. A balanced portfolio means you have investments in a variety of things, from low-risk but low-return things to things like blue-chip stocks that are somewhat less predictable, but which will probably provide steady, if not spectacular, returns for years, to the riskiest of all, venture capital, where success could increase the value of your investment 100-fold, or failure could wipe it out. Well, why don't we break for a coffee now? Then I will talk about the most common form of share ownership, common stock, which makes you become a part owner of the company itself, with voting rights and entitlement to dividend distribution if there is one.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Professor Edwards. What's happening?
Well, the department head just told me I've got to teach this course on making video documentaries. I know you two are really into videos. That documentary you made last term on homeless people was fantastic, and I've never thought this course before. I'm an old-fashioned film man, so I thought I'd get some suggestions from you on how to design this course.
Well, I don't know if we can be much help, but we'll try.
How exactly do you think we can help you?
I suppose the first thing is, how much do most of the students know about video cameras? I don't want to waste time telling them stuff they already know.
Actually, some of them have video cameras, but they only use them for home movies, that type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think many of them know much about their cameras. Just point and shoot.
So maybe I should start with the basics of the video camera.
I think so. Otherwise, they will just put the thing on automatic and lose out on a lot of really good things you can do if you control the camera more yourself.
I agree. But do you expect everyone to have their own video camera?
Too expensive for a lot of them, but they can rent them. Doesn't cost too much. £5 to £15 a day, I think. Depends on the model. The thing I'm most interested in is getting them to plan their projects properly and be creative in their use of what they've got.
Doesn't the film department have some cameras students can use?
I checked that out. They've only got 3. Probably not enough.
Do you think they need broadcast quality cameras? 3 CCDs, expensive stuff.
No need. Single CCD. A bit of zoom. Wide angle for indoor stuff and scenery. Basic functions will do.
You mean camera angles, shooting from interesting positions, creative lighting, that sort of thing.
Kind of.
But that's much the same as you teach in your film courses.
Guess you're right. But I want to think of things you can do with a video camera that you can't do with a film camera.
Aha, secret shooting. Much easier to film people without their knowing with a tiny video camera than it is with a big film camera. Make a little hole in your pocket and off you go.
And if you're not happy with something, you just erase it and do it again, if you can.
Good point. But there's a question of privacy here. Is it fair to film people without their knowing?
Unless you're a cop or something. I suppose it's not. But it's often the only way to get what you want.
I don't worry about these things. I just want to make good movies. Can't always do that if people know you're filming them.
Well, I've never been taken to court for filming people without their knowing. But I agree, sometimes you have to.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all looking so full of energy. Today I'm going to give an overview of some general principles and issues relating to land management and ownership. Very important. If we look at history, it seems that much of it concerns conflict over religion, economic power, and land. Often all 3 factors are involved together. The first question one asks when talking about land is, who owns it? What you can do with land you own depends on one's political views. A far-right conservative may say ownership is the socially supported power to do what you want with the land you own, with no control by government as long as what you do with it doesn't hurt others. You can imagine how different factions interpret hurt others. By contrast, the political left, socialists and, more to the left, communists say land ownership, private land ownership that is the root cause of much injustice in the world, and that the social protection of private land ownership can result in tyranny and oppression. They therefore argue for state, public and cooperative forms of land ownership. I would mention here that most of us take for granted the idea that everything must be owned by a person, people, or an organisation. But some societies, notably some native North American tribes, seem to have no concept of personal ownership. It was normal for them simply to take anything they needed and for others to take it from them if they needed it. When European settlers came, the Indians behaved as usual, which led the Europeans to seeing them as thieves. But the European settlers grabbed the Native Americans' land, their most important possession. So who were the real thieves? However, in this day and age, it would be futile to think of getting rid of the concept of ownership. But let me return to land ownership. It's a complex issue. For example, should the owner have exclusive control over the rights of way, like traditional footpaths, or the migration routes of wild animals, or the ecologically important wetlands? Should the owner be allowed to destroy the whole lot by building expensive houses everywhere? Or what if the owner discovers hidden treasure that once belonged to the royal family? All such things raise questions of the rights of the owner as opposed to the rights of others, including animals, perhaps. Clearly, divergent views on such questions are a constant source of argument. What did the classical economists say about land ownership? Their positions were often rather ambiguous. Many of them seemed to consider it a necessary evil, and argued that it could not be defended if there was not some obligation to keep and improve the land. This is the concept of stewardship, that the land must be kept in good condition for future generations. But what if the owners were good stewards of their vast estates, but millions were going hungry? The Marxist answer was, and still is, land reform as a means of social justice. And in the 20th century, I mentioned ecological issues just now. Other reasons for legally restricting the rights of landowners have emerged. You can't cut the trees down because it would cause soil erosion that can spoil rivers hundreds of miles away. Pollution, the need to protect biodiversity, things that reduce the level of what we called nature's services to the general public. All have led to more restrictions on landowners' rights, at least in some countries, especially Europe. At the same time, property taxes have steadily increased to pay for essential services offered by the state or local government, such as firefighting. As these threats to the health of our planet get more serious, some people have argued that the ownership of natural capital, forests, wetlands, etc., will more and more be controlled by communal and not by private bodies. For example, the use by multinational companies of native plant varieties for modified crops and new drugs, plants that they seldom paid for in the past, are now increasingly recognized as belonging to the cultures or ecosystems from which they originated. But it seems to me that having the land and its flora and fauna owned by governments is no guarantee that they'll be used wisely, rather than for short-term profit. The evidence is that local ownership protected by law is usually the best answer. Okay, it will soon be time for a break, but before we have our coffee, I will give the answers to the two questions I asked you last time. What are the differences between leasehold and freehold? Essentially, the former allows possession for a limited time, while the latter is a special right granting the full use of real estate for an indeterminate time. In this country, most houses are sold with the land and the house itself freehold, whereas many flats are sold with a lease which was issued by the freeholder to the original leaseholder. The flat is then effectively owned by the leaseholder for an agreed number of years.